Hey, smoke weed every day.
Yeah, we're live.
He's like, uh-oh. Shit.
Can we play Snoop Dogg right now?
So
Yeah.
what's cool is this is the
Keeping
last
on the
episode.
grind.
This is the last episode of Breakfast Talk and before our Comic-Con. So yeah.
Woo!
Woo!
So this is
What episode is this?
33,
There it is. Okay.
and we'll roll the intro.
Wakey, smell those eggs and bacon. It's time for Breakfast Talk, a podcast discussing current, independent, and mainstream entertainment topics, from gaming and movies to comics. Start your week off right with the Breakfast Boys. As always, if you can smell what we're cooking, click that like button, and if your tummies are rumbling for more, click subscribe and ring that brekkie bell to turn on all notifications. All right, let's talk.
Breakfast time!
There you go. This is
Where's Greg's?
Breakfast Talk.
Oh, there it is.
There you
Okay.
It's episode
The Buttercat
33.
is
Yeah. Episode 33 of Breakfast Talk. This is the last episode before our SNCC
2021.
F5, numeral 522, CSCS.
Wait, isn't it just XXI?
Yeah, it's whatever Elon Musk's kid's name is.
Oh. Oh my God. Random thing was I was watching Rick and Morty season 4 finally.
2, 3, 4.
And 2, 3, 4. Yeah. I was watching Rick and Morty season 4, and like Elon Musk is a voice in that.
Elon Tusk, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I just finally saw that like a few days ago. I was so freaking excited.
All right, I gotta say this because I've been dying to say this to somebody. Do you guys watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
A long time ago. I've only seen like the first like 4 to 5 seasons.
Do you know about the whole German Shepherd painting?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that. In Rick and Morty, when they do the time traveling snakes, like the Terminator snake thing. So in Snake Hitler's little room, he like Snake Hitler goes by, you see the painting of the German Shepherd in the background.
That's awesome.
It's so awesome of a reference, and like you have to like know, you know, the reference to get it, and it's just fucking awesome. I was like, I just started like getting into Always Sunny, so it just blew my mind right there.
It's gonna be another season of that.
That's
Easter
awesome.
egg. I like the original seasons, but then it started getting so weird for me. I'm like, all right, this is like, I feel like they're just trying to make me uncomfortable now for no reason. Like you know what I mean? Like there was like a certain level where, like, I think one of the last funny episodes I saw was when they got addicted to crack because they were sitting on a toilet seat made of crack, and like he wouldn't get off the toilet, and then eventually they're like trying to get drugs in the street. Like I think it was like season 3 or 4. It was like one of the last times I like really laughed at it. But then like I said, it started getting real weird after a while. So I was like,
How love this shit.
Yeah, Frank is my favorite character. Frank and
Yes.
Charlie. Frank and Charlie.
yeah.
You are a disgusting individual.
Well, like for example, the reason why I mean like it's weird is who's the guy that like in real life intentionally got fat because he thought it was funny. Yeah, like that's so weird mentally that you could tell where their brain is at when they're acting. Like, and that's such a like. Who makes themselves fat to be funny? Like that's insane.
We got super jacked.
Yeah. He goes back and forth. It's a running joke.
I know, but like that's like not mentally stable, which the show is very evident of, which is why it's funny. But like I said, it got past that for me. Eventually, I'm like, all right, this is like I'm like watching real people suffer. That's what it felt like.
Honestly, yeah, I think that's kind of the subtextual thing that goes throughout is like all of these people kind of have some kind of personality disorder or some shit, and they're all just functioning, like barely functioning human beings, and they just all kind of collaborate to share a barely functioning brain. I think that's kind of
that Charlie in the show is actually married to the waitress.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why it's so funny. Is like because like she hates him.
Yeah, and Mac is actually married to Dee.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's hilarious.
Buttercat, John. Yes, you're gonna get your stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that right now. Yeah, let me get that Buttercat mug. I literally was opening that before the show.
That was a great reminder. Look at with emoji.
Dude, that was solid.
Everything. That was fucking.
Buttercat.
I literally was opening the store before we went live because I got distracted because we were talking about like crazy shit, and I was like, what I was like thinking like, oh yeah, I should get that mug, and I was gonna ask before we went live because I don't want to like share his address live. But I'm gonna get it on the side. Let's
your
see.
social security number, John.
Yeah,
Yeah, can we get your social real quick?
Here.
He, like,
Address,
he puts it in, and
date of
Greg actually
birth.
puts it up.
I like. Oh.
All right, let's see.
Yeah.
So Eternals.
Yes.
That's what we're
gonna
talking
well,
about today.
Hector's gonna be talking about Eternals. Me and Dylan
Yeah.
did not see that, but you know we can still talk about it.
Okay, well, we had we've had a breakfast talk about it, right? Like about that was one of our subject matters. So from what you guys saw in the trailers, how did you feel about what this was going to mean for Marvel? There we go, 69, baby, nice.
Noise.
Please provide credit card. Yeah, exactly.
It's just for security purposes.
We need all that verification information, your phone number, so we can send telemarketers after you, like all that kind of stuff, all that fun stuff. So what was your guys' interpretation of how this fits as a Marvel movie?
What do you mean, like how the Eternals fit into the rest of the movies?
Yeah, because there was like
I think the one thing
timing of the release,
I think one of the things I remember them saying was that they didn't get involved in like the alien invasion stuff, even though they're supposed to be Guardians of the Earth. I think that, right? Like, wasn't that part of?
Okay, so
without spoiling, I think that was like in one of the trailers, like that was partially mentioned.
They touch it.
So what you see in the trailer, that's as far as they explain. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, what I was gonna say was, it seems like, to me, it seems like what they're trying to do is, obviously we got attacked, like planet Earth gets attacked, and luckily we had created the Avengers to save ourselves. And these guys were supposed to defend us, but they weren't because they were busy with something else. That something else, I'm assuming, is the thing that will eventually be coming. But if that's not the case, then I don't know what the purpose of bringing them in this late is.
That someone was mentioning they should have actually been there when Thanos was there.
No, that's what I'm saying. If they're not there when Thanos is there, my only logical reason would be that they're stopping someone like Galactus. Like, other than that, like, I can't imagine a better reason to not be where the greatest threat to the universe is fighting, happening to be on the planet they're supposed to be defending.
All right, so the Eternals, I'll just put it this way. The Eternals are servants of the Celestials. So someone like Galactus, if Galactus came, they wouldn't intervene either, because
But he's not a Celestial.
He is a Celestial.
What?
Yeah, he's the planet.
I know, but Celestials are the planet creators. Remember, there's like destroyers and then there's creators.
Universal creators.
Yeah, but like, remember but like, what's it called? The what's his face? Star-Lord's dad. That's the whole point. Is he's a Celestial. He creates planets, right? Like, that's kind of his whole thing, so that he counterbalances the destroyers. Ironically, now that I think about it, it reminds me of freaking Dragon Ball Super. There's like the Kais that create the planets, and then there's the world, what they call the 100%. God of Destruction, right? That's what I picture Galactus as. Like, Thanos just happens to be destroying stuff. Galactus is supposed to be like that universal destroyer, and the Celestials counterbalance that by creating behind him almost as he destroys everything.
Well, that's the point. They function within that balance, so they wouldn't intervene because that's part of the natural balance.
Oh, okay. So because so they wouldn't. They might rebuild Earth after, but they wouldn't stop him from destroying it.
Well, the Eternals aren't.
I know, not them. The Celestials.
Celestials.
And so because the Celestials are aware of that, they wouldn't tell the Eternals, who are their responsibility, to stop the person who's doing doing his job. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Then I have no idea why they weren't there. That's a terrible.
They wouldn't kick the broom out of Galactus's hands. You know what I mean? They wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
They're not
he's just cleaning. That's all he's doing.
He's just doing his job. He's just doing his job. No, so I mean, there's explanation within the movie that then makes that make sense, right? So like I just said, they're servants of the Celestials. I understand why you were saying, though, Greg, that like, they should have intervened with Thanos, because in the comic books, Thanos is actually a deviant from Titan. So he's in the comics, deviants are very much like mutants. They have like, they're a naturally occurring thing that's like a counterbalance to like other individuals with power, essentially. So like, deviants are they're kind of like mutants. Let's just put it that way in the comic universe. And Thanos is an actual deviant. If you look at all the other Titans, he looks nothing like them, and he's supposed to be a deviant. And that's what makes him near immortal, super strong, like all that kind of shit. So he's basically like the Hulk, mutant Hulk, like an Omega level mutant on Titan. So essentially that's what deviants were, but they have since in this iteration in the MCU, they're something completely different.
I thought they presumed that Thanos was a Titan in this MCU.
No, Thanos is from Titan. So
No, I know.
He's a Titan from Titan.
That's what I'm saying though. Like he's not just a deviant. I'm saying in this MCU, this iteration, I think they were saying like he's a Titan as opposed to a deviant of the Titans.
Yeah, exactly. No. He has no connection to the deviants whatsoever. Because the deviants are a separate thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because we're going from the comic universe to the cinematic universe, which there are many differences, and they follow a more linear storyline than the comics. So there has to be things that they cut out and simplify and add in and all that kind of shit. So, so yes, my brain hurts as well. I understand where you're coming from, but either way,
I don't because my brain hurts.
and what's even funnier is in this MCU, Galactus might be completely different. He might not even be considered a Celestial or anything like that. So we might be completely wrong as in terms of the interpretation that we have, because Galactus has not appeared in this MCU.
Based on like just the way they built this stuff out, I would be willing to bet, although he's like in the Celestial status, I'd be willing to I'm willing to bet that they probably do something similar to, like I mentioned, like Dragon Ball Super, where like there's the destroyers and then there's the creators.
There's a hierarchy, yeah.
Yeah, and like essentially neither of them stop each other, right? The destroyer never kills like the Kais off, but they will destroy whatever's in their way, and the Kais just keep building behind them, right? And that's that's what I'm picturing that they're doing in this universe. It just makes sense, like on how things have been happening. The fact that no one interfered with Thanos outside of the actual Avengers pulling people to them, like that's crazy. So because of that, that's the only reason I would imagine that.
Here's another thing too. There is a reason why. Maybe another reason why people are saying, "Oh yeah, they should have intervened with Thanos," and it's because there's a plot line. It's a plot hole. Let's just put it that way. But at the same time, it kind of makes sense because again, like these beings and the way that they're the storyline explains their creation, it very much makes sense. If they weren't told to do something, they wouldn't or shouldn't do it.
You're saying that the way that the Eternals were, they're external to everything else in this, but so the way that you're saying that the way they describe how they were created, it would make sense they wouldn't interfere like with someone with Thanos.
Unless they were directly told, go and do this.
Oh, okay. So it's not that they wouldn't defend against him. It's just that without given direction, they won't do it. And it seems like someone's just not been giving them directions, or like hasn't noticed, like, oh, hey, that's weird. Like half the people I know are dead. So.
But also too, you have to presume that whoever's giving the orders, whoever, I'll say it's Ashram. Ashram is the Celestial that is
that runs the Eternals.
Yes, he runs the Eternals, and he actually created our sun. So he's basically in charge of our galaxy. We're living in his galaxy. Let's just put it that way, right? So he didn't give a specific order because he probably had insight beyond time and space. So let's just put
meaning like he might have known that it was going to resolve itself, and to not show them, and they couldn't show themselves now because it basically would show that they exist and would interfere with future potential issues.
Bang.
Nice. That makes sense.
It does.
That's okay. That's a cool way to do it.
It's confusing because anything post blip is going to have that confusing aspect of, well, how did it get this way? And that's why, like, Falcon and Winter Soldier, they have to explain that, like, oh, why does this faction even exist and all that kind of stuff. So like post blip kind of makes everything weird, right? So if this was
what do you mean blip? Like
that's what they call the
time, basically flashpoint.
Well, no, the blip is when half of the population disappears.
Oh, this they call that. I got you. Okay.
The snap, but they call it the blip inside the MCU. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, post blip makes everything. Anyway, okay. So my favorite part of this movie was, first of all, the direction of it. Chloe Zhao did an amazing job. She made it feel very grandiose. It feels very big. It feels world threatening, galaxy threatening, as opposed to every other movie in the MCU. Like, you don't feel the stakes of it. Even in Endgames, you have people dying, and even, like the I guess Infinity War essentially is the same thing, right? But you have people dying, but you don't feel the stakes of it. Like, you don't feel like, even if
even if Thanos snaps and half of the population dies, which he ends up doing, there's still 50% of the population left. You still have a group of heroes that are there. You still have, like, again, half of the galaxy that's there, half of the universe, whatever, that's there. So it doesn't feel as big, right? In this movie, because of the direction and also because of the storyline that's gonna happen, it feels so much more like there's more at stake, and that to me made it a real movie to me. It made it so, you know how there's been complaints that, like, oh, MCU movies are not cinema, they're not films, you know, like there's no greater sense of direction, there's no greater sense of plot line, storyline, acting, all those kinds of things, which I will disagree about the acting part. I think they have great actors playing these roles. I think I will agree that there's a bit of a copy and paste kind of methodology that has been put in place with Marvel, which they make comics are essentially a copy and paste process. There's differences in the storyline and things like that, but in terms of the process, that's how it works. So that made complete sense to me. I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, that makes sense, just like a comic, right? But this movie feels much more like a film. It feels much more like something you would compare to, like, a Joker movie or the Dark Knight series. Percy Jackson.
Never seen any of those.
Really?
I actually I enjoyed those. Actually, like I've
they were fun. I also would consider them more like Marvel rather than a cinematic
100%,
thing. That's what I was joking. Yeah.
yeah. No, they're a comic book play on mythos, and that's exactly what. All right. So anyway, and we talked about this in the previous episode of Breakfast Talk. We were talking about the Eternals movie in general. This movie was filmed on set. Like they were there. They were on location in a lot of these different places that they present in the movie. So that is a complete difference. It's basically
meaning like when they say they're in like a certain country, they're actually in the country instead of having a scene. That's pretty cool, because like even like movies like the Dune that came out, like a lot of the sand scenes you do are like with the green screen and then a crap ton of sand. Like, you know what I mean? Like you don't do it like in a location, although I don't know.
Yeah, that was a bit, despite, I mean, other than going to like the Sahara and filming there, which, you know, I mean, Africa is not necessarily a stable continent, to film movies in. So I don't know if they would do that, but like beyond that, you couldn't really pull that off. So that makes sense. Like any space, like if you're on an alien world, that makes sense to do it in front of a green screen. But a lot of their locations had to do with Earth, so that made.
Like, what are you talking about? The Hobbit did it in New Zealand. They pulled it off.
But that's because the writer is from New Zealand. A lot of his inspiration.
J.R.R. Tolkien's from New Zealand?
100%. Yes.
Didn't know that.
That was Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson?
Peter Jackson, yes, the director.
Director?
Mm-hmm.
Oh! I thought we were talking about Percy Jackson still.
Him too. He's from New Zealand too. You didn't know that.
That'd be weird. I'd be freaking out.
No. So it feels very much set in reality. It feels like there's stakes. It feels much more like a film. Obviously, it's a Marvel movie, so there's, you know, it does have elements of that. I'll give it that. So it's not completely well-rounded, but also it's kind of like in a Deadpool movie, like, let's get all these tropes out of the way so we can jump into the story. They absolutely did that, which I thought was brilliant. That was honestly the best way to take on this group of heroes, and especially why they haven't interfered and all this kind of stuff. So they get all that information kind of right out of the way, and they literally directly ask the question, why didn't you interfere? Why didn't you step in when Thanos came? And it's very much right in center stage, and they do it very quickly, simple answers, and they move right the fuck along to get along to their storyline, which I thought was brilliant, because first of all, you address all of the things that anybody could complain about right at the beginning, and then you also answer that question that everybody's been asking. So it basically,
like, if you're so strong,
pretty much. But also too, there's a lot of, I think, nerfing that they do in this movie with the Eternals, because they want them to be a bigger part of the MCU. So you can't give everything all in the first, 5 minutes of the movie. Even in the first film, you can't just give them all the amazing things that they have the potential to do. You can't do that all in the first movie. So I'll tell you this much. and I was discussing this with my friend who went with me to see the movie. He was like, man, you see them do some shit and you're like expecting more. And I was like, well, you kind of have to nerf them a little bit, because if they do all that, then there's nowhere else to go. That you already established everything that they can do. And then it's not surprising if you see it in more movies, because it's very clear this is going to continue. There's a post-credit scene that's basically like the Eternals will return. So you know they're coming back. And you also see how this cannot be ignored by anybody. Now they have made their presence 100% known in the
MCU. So like all of Earth knows about them now.
Yeah,
like
there's no way they are not center stage in the MCU after this point. Like after this movie, which has
that's kind of cool, because like that's something that like I wasn't sure if they were going to make them like this secret thing that keeps coming back, kind of like the Watchers or the.
This is actually a timeline set movie. So basically, this is like Blip. This is post Blip, but it's another Blip type event that you cannot ignore. There is no hero on the earth that is not aware of what's going on right now. So I'll tell you that much, and that's what I'm saying. Like it does feel like there's it holds stake in the MCU, and to me, this is a move to make kind of everybody forget about the Blip. We've addressed the Blip. We've set different things inside the Blip and after the Blip and all that kind of shit. We've had a Black Widow movie that's now gone way back into the past, but it's also brought things into the future. All that are in the present day. But this is like basically, let's move on from the Blip. That did happen. Let's move on from Tony dying. That did happen.
Let's get back to the future.
The Eternals, right. The Eternals have center stage. So that's what it feels like it's setting up for me. And all the other movies are then going to kind of have some aspect of that storytelling. And they also do give, so the Eternals, let's just put it this way. The Eternals are one group on one planet. There's a bigger hierarchy. So I'll just leave it at that. So what they do is they set up a larger hierarchy that now you have to speculate, wait, what? How does that work on every other system and planet that we've already seen? Because we have the Kree, we have a bigger universe in terms of the Guardians of the Galaxy, we have all those different things that we've already seen. So how does that work on every other planet?
Yeah. Do you think that they're trying to make the do you think that they're trying to make the Eternals be potentially like the leaders of the new Avengers? Because I know that, like, I remember looking at the timeline of movies that they plan on coming out with eventually, and one of them was like the Dark Avengers or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. And if that's the case, I would almost assume something like the Eternals might take over as the Avengers, to the point where like there's something bad is happening, where it's one of those for the greater good, you know.
No, I think the Dark Eternals or the Dark Avengers has been something that has been like, this is a strong indication there will be this title. But what I think you're gonna have there is more like the Hulk, like She-Hulk, Red Hulk. You're gonna have those kinds of characters.
I want Red Hulk so bad.
Are somewhat secondary characters. And I actually think that they do introduce an Avenger in this movie, a future Avenger in this movie, but it's not any of the Eternals. If that makes sense. You might get it when you watch the movie, but he is this character. I mean, this character, they has been part of the Avengers in the comics.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there you go.
Oh, I'm not gonna say who I think it is.
My specific, in terms of the Dark Avengers, how they're playing, I think it's going to be Red Hulk, and I think he's going to be introduced in She-Hulk, the series.
Yeah,
and I think you're going to get more of those dark heroes coming, like anti.
Because isn't the Dark Avengers? I was gonna say, isn't the Dark Avengers like a collection of essentially anti-heroes that have to do avenging because something so bad and evil comes that basically they need a Batman Dark Vengeance style come to fight off whatever it is.
It's kind of like you feel like maybe the Avengers are either off-world or they've been like
decommissioned somehow, because there's an equivalent in the DCU where essentially not the current DCU, but where essentially everyone gets taken over except for Batman, like the Injustice style, and he has to go get other people to get together. So that's what I kind of assume the Dark Avengers would be, is like the misfit gang. It's kind of like the Suicide Squad of anti-heroes, with as opposed to the Suicide Squad of villains.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 100%.
Cool. Yeah, I still got to see that movie though. But
what?
Eternals.
Yeah, I got to see that too.
And I have to see Shang-Chi, and I have to see the rest of What If.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen What If at all.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Shang-Chi, direct tie into the Eternals.
Oh,
So I need to see that then.
Doctor Strange, direct tie-in with the Eternals.
oh, I saw that.
Not direct.
I haven't seen that yet either. I need to catch up on all these new ones.
Not in the sense that they are in the movie, but if you've watched Shang-Chi and if you know anything about Doctor Strange, you see references that are very clearly like, again, no one is going like there's no speculation anymore. Like, you know, in previous movies, when you see, you know, post-credit scenes or whatever, you're like, oh, is this tied in? Oh, does this work? Oh, you see a character from that's supposed to be in this universe, in this movie set, that is in this movie set. Are they going to cross over? There is no speculation in this movie. They're very upfront about every detail that they give. It's 100% tied in, and you're like, oh shit, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, finally, these very speculative kind of moves by Marvel are all kind of going to one place. And all I got to say is, again, Kevin Feige is amazing when it comes to...
How do you say his name?
Feige, whatever the fuck you want to
Feige?
say. I don't know.
I thought it was Feige.
Don't you want a Fanta?
Don't you
want
yeah.
Don't you want
Fanta?
I want a Feige. You fucking...
Man, we got him.
Oh
no, he's blacklist. What happened?
He's amazing at taking the content that we have, like that's kind of spread along the Marvel universe, and separating out into their own different pieces of important like content. Like, okay, so he gave the Eternals a movie. He's giving, you know what I mean? He's giving Spider-Man his own series. Like, so everything that's kind of important inside the MCU, like, or inside the comic universe, like, besides, like, I guess the Defenders, right? Like, the Defenders are kind of a New York-based team. They are kind of, they're not important, I guess, in the overall picture of the Marvel comic universe, but they're very well known. Like, let's just put it that way. So they have a lot of history. And
it's actually interesting. Some of the people they stopped, though, like, it's like they stopped them before they became so drastic that someone like the Avengers would have to step in. Like, some of the people they did actually stop were pretty strong. But I was gonna say the Kevin Feige thing. You were saying like how he's like kind of like a master at like his work of creating this universe with multiple movies that can be distinctly separate and universally better. One thing that's interesting is that I think I mentioned this on a different podcast, but basically the idea that he got a hold of the whole comic book world as well, not just the movies. So he actually controls the comic books coming out. And so because of that, he's been releasing comics, I think, as tests. Mm-hmm. So he's been creating new comics in the meantime. So I almost wonder if that's what's helping him generate these ideas, actually starting with new comics based on the old comics.
Like a test kind of thing, yeah.
Because if people can't enjoy the comic versions of what the movies will ultimately be, how will you enjoy the movies? Yeah. And so, that's super interesting.
Yeah, I think, this universe is super diverse. It's very, it's very much in the world that we live in today. Like, it doesn't overly do political issues, but it also maintains them. And it
they have them in a way that's like, they have it in a way that
it's not gimmicky.
They're not what that was the word, they're not going for like current things, they're going for general things. They're not trying to be like, oh, this is like a hot new thing, let's talk about this right now. They're talking about like general ideas, which is what all movies should kind of do, is like just sending general ideas.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, you maybe that you can make some argument for, like, say, Black Panther and when that came out and like that kind of stuff. But at the same time, again, Marvel has had a very great history with presenting those kinds of political ideas in comic book format. So it's not something that
the X-Men. The X-Men was like,
it's not something that's new to the company at all. You know what I mean? So it's very much in line with who they are as a company. So again, anyway, let's move on from that. But Kevin Feige, however you want to pronounce his last name, maybe he can comment on this podcast and tell us how
let us know, Feige. We know you're watching. You're watching.
All the bigwigs are watching.
Today is the day. We had like 14 comments in here. Look at all these.
Yeah,
by the way, John, if you're still watching, I'm trying to get you your mug.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that ironic,
jerk.
Greg?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Very ironic.
I don't know if Greg's here right now. You see that? He's just like he's like looking around. He's like
he's looking at the Chronicles of Horror new quick starter. He's
He's
figuring
like,
out how you pronounce Kevin Feige's last name. He's doing,
yeah,
he's
that's
doing
what
a
he's
lot
been
of stuff.
doing this whole time. He's like watching interviews right now. He's like, what the hell's his name?
Exactly.
That's not my name.
I was gonna mention a thing before we ended this.
Go for it.
Was Charlie Cox brought up in an interview what season 4 of Daredevil would have been, and it was actually the rise of
The Phoenix.
Spoiler if you didn't see the third one. The rise of
Yeah, go ahead.
the rise of Bullseye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No,
and
they already did
it
that.
was actually
Maybe I saw the third one. I don't remember.
No, you did not. You're way behind on everything. You should just take like.
But they did that though.
What?
Season 3 was
No,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Actually, no, but like more like that was like his origin story, and like he actually like comes back and does shit like.
Okay, so he's the main villain then. Essentially, he's become the super villain.
Yeah, he's not manipulated by.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spoil it because someone here hasn't.
He's not manipulated by a manipulator.
Yeah, exactly.
A manipulator. That's all you have to say.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, man, hopefully we talked about this in a previous podcast. Hopefully we do get our Charlie Cox back. Hopefully, fingers crossed, prayer to Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Hopefully he's back in the universe in some way. Hopefully we get John Bernthal back. Hopefully they do a new Iron Fist that isn't such an idiot. And we get
or just somebody who takes the time to learn martial arts. For Christ's sake, like I could have done a better job. Like,
give us Luke Cage again.
Yeah, exactly.
Luke Cage was freaking awesome. I love Luke Cage.
Let's do an Iron Fist Luke Cage. Like, let's just give them, a buddy cop kind of scenario. I'm totally down for that. That'd be dope. That'd be dope as fuck. They would be holding down New York while Spidey, in this MCU, he has to be like Iron Man now. So with playing with Doctor Strange and shit. So he's off doing his own thing. Now you got, New York needs the protectors. There you go. You got the defenders, and now you got, Luke Cage and Iron Fist kind of, doing things. And then you can see them sparring more, which would be pretty dope. Anyway, in terms of the Eternals, just to wrap it all up, I would recommend,
nice little bow.
Yeah, I would recommend that you guys go watch this movie. And
set your clocks back.
Yeah. Back to the blip. We're going back to the blip. Set them before half the population was destroyed. No, and honestly, keep your mind open to what is actually going on in this movie, because I think that this is going to be.
I'm not going to do that.
Here's a comment. Here's a comment. It suffers from the MCU flaw, and the MCU flaw is that you need to have had previous knowledge of what's going on in the MCU to get all the things that are working in this movie. So that is a flaw. If you haven't seen pretty much every movie up until now, there's going to be some blanks. I would say you need to watch at least Doctor Strange, the Endgame movies.
Real quick, the new Doctor Strange or the old Doctor Strange?
Well, the new one's not out yet.
The new one's not out yet. Yeah, so just Doctor Strange movie.
You have to go into the future and watch that.
There's the what if version.
Yeah, but it is canon, but it's in an alternate universe. And then also, if you had watched Iron Man or anything about Iron Man that works, Avengers movies, so you have to have a lot of context, let's just put it that way, to go into this movie and then be like, okay, this works here, this is why this is, and I see the references and blah blah. If you've watched Shang-Chi, it'll fit more perfectly inside that bubble as well.
I can watch it in a couple days on Disney Plus, so
go for it. Yeah, perfect timing. And then also, in terms of the Eternals as a movie, I think the way that they've created the design of the Celestials, actually the design of everything in this movie is fucking dope. I mean, their costumes is really great. I think the actors fit the roles really well. The storyline was different from what I thought it was going to be, because there's a very strong Eternal storyline that leaves. Yeah.
Is that I am never around on Sundays to catch this. The multiverse must be collapsing. Hey, boy.
What up, Aaron? Yeah, we never see you, bro. We only see you on your videos now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say, like I said, it's an interesting movie. It definitely sets up the remainder of I guess what we like. If you had any questions about what the fuck is going to happen now in the MCU, this kind of helps determine the direction a little bit. And then I also feel like, again, they're introducing. Yes, we are welcome, and you're welcome as well. And it helps kind of give direction to like maybe introduce a new Avenger and all that kind of stuff. So, c'est la vie. Went into vis-a-vis.
Visa, MasterCard, Discover.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Ipso facto.
So
when do I start?
So this is episode 30. Was episode 33 of Breakfast Talk.
Breakfast Talk!
Sound like a stutter.
Who said that?
So this is
I think it was the cat. The cat did it.
The cat's actually speaking. This is the last episode before Comic-Con. That's in like 2 weeks.
Can we leak what we're doing?
Yeah.
For that?
We're doing a game show to actually. We'll talk about it more once we go into the brunch bulletin. But game show is the last episode of Breakfast Talk, like ever. Unless if we get 3 million fans, if you're like, we want Breakfast Talk back, and be like, okay,
yeah, Breakfast Talk or nothing.
But yeah, we're gonna be.
I will literally slit my wrist right now.
You belong to me.
Yeah, that was a little too dark, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm a little scared.
Sorry,
I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, I was speaking on behalf of somebody who wants Breakfast Talk back. I'm not saying I'm going to. I mean, that would be a legitimate reason why we don't do Breakfast Talk anymore.
Buttercat's throat. There you go.
I went down the river.
He is gonna go after us now.
I went down the river instead of across the stream.